seeing tonight. As we all know, Huntsville, Alabama has played a major role in the development of America's space program. The rockets that launched the Apollo Command Module into space on July 10th, 1969 were manufactured and developed right here in Huntsville, Alabama. We did this as a public service to you, our viewers, and hope that you've certainly enjoyed it as much as we have seeing it here tonight. We're going to be doing our whole 10 o'clock newscast from the Space and Rocket Center live, and so you'll want to stay with us now for a few minutes. Dave, in recapping what we just saw, let's talk about it here for a second. It was really an amazing feat, and I know you've been out here the past couple of days covering the preparations for this program. It was certainly interesting.
I could talk about it for hours, actually. You know, for someone, Jack, who actually was 14 years old. I was 14 years old when Apollo 11 first landed on the moon. And I remember it was something I almost was in tears. I mean, that's how an important moment it was to me. And this tonight brought back that feeling of tears. It was just, you know, an immense, overwhelming moment. It's hard to describe.
So you certainly remember, as the center tonight, remember where you were, what you were doing on that Sunday night in July of 1969. Where were you, by the way?
I'm all ready to tell you, I was at a friend's house, a friend by the name of Tom Metcalf. Tom, if you're listening, I told you I'd mention your name someday on television. I was with Tom watching, and we had popcorn and Cokes, and we watched the first man walk on the moon. And it was just, they just kept on flashing on the screen, first man on the moon. And I said, dummies, you didn't have to tell me that. I think everybody in the world knows it. But it was just an overpowering moment. And we stayed up at that time. They had so much television coverage. We stayed up 24 hours almost. So it was just amazing.
I remember where I was. I was at my girlfriend's house in Montgomery, Alabama. And, several people were gathered around the television set that night. This has really been an exciting and, as we said, interesting occasion here at the Space and Rocket Center. And we're going to be telling you more about it in the next few minutes. And, of course, as we said, bring you our entire 10 o'clock newscast live from the Space Center. Right now, we're going to pause for these commercial messages. We'll be back with more of News 48 Update in just a moment.
Tastes as rich as it looks.
Well, we're back now live at the Space and Rocket Center here in Huntsville. I'm Jack Robertson, and if by chance you're just now joining us, what we have been witnessing here this evening is a reenactment of man's first step on the moon. It's been part of a gala celebration here at the Space and Rocket Center earlier this evening, a special reception, cocktail hour. A lot of dignitaries from around the Huntsville area were in attendance tonight and enjoying the celebration of the 10th anniversary of man's first walk on the moon. In that celebration today, the 3 original astronauts who made that journey to the moon were in Washington today for special dedication ceremonies at our nation's capital in the capital city. And from the wires of Associated Press, we have this information as to how the 3 astronauts reacted to this, the 10th anniversary. In Washington today, the commander of the spacecraft, Neil Armstrong, said he would be willing to go up in space and walk on the moon in a minute. He's that excited about it and has continued to be that excited about it through the years. His crewmate, Michael Collins, says he'd go again today, but he said it might take a little bit more than a minute to prepare to land in space or land on the moon. The 3rd Apollo crew member, Edwin Buzz Aldrin, has a little different viewpoint about the Apollo program. Since the years of Apollo 11 setting down on the moon, Aldrin had some difficulties, some family troubles, 2 divorces, nervous breakdown. And he said today in Washington that he wasn't sure that he would go through it again. But as we have mentioned earlier, the date of July 20th, 1969 remains fresh in the memories of many Americans. And Dave Game is now with us here at the Space and Rocket Center, as he was earlier. And Dave, you have someone to interview now.
That's right, Jack. I have with me Ed Buckby, who's the director of the Alabama Space and Rocket Center, and a very happy and proud man, I guess, right about now, Ed.
I really am. The crew did an unbelievable job tonight. We've been working on this thing for 3 weeks, and I can't tell you how many hours these people have put in. Last night we finished at 2:15 final rehearsal, and they just wanted to make it come off, you know, proper so that Huntsville could be proud of the show that we put on tonight. And also remember that 10 years ago, all the people, or certainly many of the people here tonight, helped put that big rocket on its way to the moon. So I'm pleased it came off well, and I thank the weatherman for his very, very wise advice.
We had Glenn Bracken giving some messages to the man upstairs. What was going through your mind, Ed, as this came about? We talked about it just a little bit earlier, what Jack and I were doing. What were you thinking as you saw this reenactment?
Well, I remember watching, of course, on television. I saw the Apollo 11 liftoff at Kennedy, and then came home and watched the moonwalk. And I'd, of course, seen the effects and so forth. I was watching the people, and I think I was more moved by the expression on people's faces and the applause tonight during the sequence than I was really the action, because I sort of expected, you know, what was going to happen. But I was so impressed with the way people reacted to it. The flag was planted, and the first step on the moon and so forth.
Some of the pyrotechnics, I stayed for a lot of the rehearsal last night, but I hadn't seen the actual detonation of the stages. Quite a startling event.
A couple of surprises, I might add. One or two might have been a bit loud, but I think they got the point across. I hope no one was injured or have any hearing problems after that. But the special effects people made this show tonight. We put the script together and the visuals and so forth. But all the lighting and all the theatrics that were added to it, and the actors, all of that made I think a very nice presentation.
And it definitely was. Jack, you had a question?
And I'd like to ask you a quick question. The Space and Rocket Center has been growing by leaps and bounds ever since the space program sort of got off the ground here in Huntsville. It's a marvelous facility. There are probably a lot of people in Huntsville who haven't been out to see the Space and Rocket Center. You have a lot of space memorabilia here now. What's in the future for the Space and Rocket Center? What sort of development in the future can we see?
We have a 10-year master plan that involves expansion of our educational programs. We, as you know, have a bill in Congress to acquire additional acreage, and when that passes, we hope that will be soon, then we will begin to make serious plans on our expansion. We are studying various things that we want to add. We're looking at the manner in which we should finance those things. You know, we have been a self-sufficient facility. We paid our own way, and we're trying to come up with programs and projects that will continue to do so and not be a burden on any one government or any individual. So I would say in the next few months we will be able to talk more about our plans for the future, specifically say something about the 10-year expansion program, what phase one will consist of, and a lot of that hinges on the transfer of the property, which is now in Congress.
Right. Okay. Ed, let me take this opportunity to congratulate you and everyone at the Space Center for a job well done tonight, and we appreciate you letting us be out here live.
Oh, we'd love to have you. And I want to thank my staff, because a lot of hard-working people out there made this thing possible tonight.
Okay. Ed, I know you've got things to do, so we'll let you go on, and we appreciate you talking with us tonight. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Ed Bugbee, the director of the Space and Rocket Center. Dave, while you're still standing there, I know you've been keeping track of the Skylab story as it's been going on. Tell us what you found out today.
Well, today the decision was finally made. Scientists were probing the possible chunks of Skylab. Tests and tests and tests were underway. And today, late this morning, the results were finally released. It was appropriate that NASA scientists decided the authenticity of the chunks of charcoal on this 10th anniversary of man's landing on the moon. A solid week of exhaustive test was compiled this morning and led scientists to their decision that the material, which looked like charcoal, was actually that, charcoal from outer space.
In examining the debris that we received in comparison to the parts that we made in our laboratory under controlled conditions so we knew what it was, we were able to quite confidently say they are the same. Now, we cannot say with absolute certainty that these parts that were submitted to the San Francisco Examiner came from this point of Skylab or that point of Skylab. We cannot even say with absolute certainty that they did come from Skylab. We can say that our crew in Australia now has found comparable materials on the roofs of homes in Esperance, that we can explain that the materials submitted are indeed very much like materials we knew were on Skylab, and we know that Esperance was the coastal city, first coastal city in the footprint of Skylab, and therefore we believe it's a reasonable assumption to say that these materials in fact did come from Skylab.
There will probably always be some small doubt because of the difficulty of analyzing the samples, but today there was no doubt on the mind of newspaper editor Steve Cook, who brought the samples to Huntsville for analysis.
We're quite satisfied with the report, and we're very thankful to NASA.
Today, a 17-year-old Australian boy was given a $10,000 check from Cook's paper for finding the pieces. That was probably the best thing to come out of the death of Skylab. Now, NASA scientists say they're ready and eager to get back to more pressing business, like the upcoming space shuttle missions. Well, the future of space in the United States is at least a good bet right now. It's going to continue to be important, at least to the Huntsville area. And while the pace won't be as hectic as it has been in the last few weeks, as the space shuttle does get ready to take off, Jack, we will see an increase in the pace and again, more and more space news. So I'm going to take a break for a while and get ready for that.
Okay, Dave. Dave, thanks for your expertise tonight and helping us out. And job well done by yourself.
Thank you very much, Jack.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Dave. Dave Game, who is relatively new to the TV 48 staff, but you're going to be seeing more and more of that young man as the days go by. Well, as we said, it has been a rather exciting evening at the Space and Rocket Center, but in comparison, there are other news developments. Some tragedy in the news tonight, a double murder in DeKalb County, and the authorities are investigating the murder of a wife and a man and his wife in the Eider community of DeKalb County last night. News 48's Marla Miller has the details.
37-year-old John Wisant was gunned down at this spot as he tried to run for help. Just before 6 this morning, his body was found by next-door neighbor Gerald Chapman.
I came out to take my garbage out to the main highway here, 75 highway, and I found a body laying in front of my truck on my drive, face down.
Wisant had been shot 3 times, once in the head. A short time later, Wisant's 43-year-old wife Meredith was found dead in the kitchen, shot once in the chest. But some of the bullets missed their mark. One even hit Chapman's home.
Last night there was a lot of shooting, loud shooting. It was a high-powered rifle or something, what it sounded like a deer rifle. And that's all I heard. I came into my garage and looked and I didn't see anything. Last night I figured they was just target practice maybe or something up next door.
Authorities say they were unable to find Wisant's wallet or his wife's purse, yet they're ruling out robbery as a motive. Sheriff's investigators have issued warrants for a suspect whom they hope to have in custody by tomorrow. Marla Miller, News 48, DeKalb County.
The FBI has since identified the hijacker as Alan Rimmerman, a biochemist from Portland, Oregon. Well, the weather cooperated with us at the Space and Rocket Center tonight. Glenn Bracken is going to be along to bring us up to date on the weather and tell you what the weekend's going to look like when we continue live. News 48 update continues live from the Alabama Space and Rocket Center. Got to hand it to you. You gave us some good weather tonight.
We've never been this close before.
That's
Hello,
right.
Jack.
It's good to see
How
you.
do you like being outside?
I love it. I love it. I know the thrill that you go through every night.
Well, we got lots of folks down here tonight having a real good time, but I think the biggest thing in everybody's mind is the weather, so let's get on to it. On over here on the weather map here at Huntsville Tranquility Base, we had a little problem. I think it was the humidity or maybe something about the atmosphere of the moon dust made my magic markers run tonight. I haven't figured that out yet. It wasn't too bad across North Alabama. Just as you were seeing live a few minutes ago, the reenactment of the landing of the lunar module Eagle. We had rainfall 9 miles to the northwest of us and about 12 miles to the southeast of us, and lots of rain all around us. But we were very fortunate and didn't get anything but light sprinkles out here at the Alabama Space and Rocket Center tonight. Unfortunately, it looks like tomorrow is going to be about a carbon copy of today for all you people that like the sun, but it is good news for all the area farmers, gardeners, and those brown yards because we need the rain. Everything has been real dry lately. A water spout was reported near Mobile off of Dauphin Island about 7:30 this evening. Never ran ashore, so we didn't see any damage from that storm. A tornado near Biloxi, Mississippi, and a water spout out in that bay also reported no injuries or damage from those storms. Elsewhere, severe weather in Minnesota, 60-mile-per-hour winds, golf ball-sized hail toppled trees and tore the roof off of a house and a barn. And back out here, where it's usually damp and cool, it was very hot today. Yakima and Spokane, Washington, 100 degrees, but Hardin, Washington, came in with 110 degrees, and that was the nation's highest temperature today. Down here, where it's usually hot and dry, it was kind of damp and cool, with temperatures only in the upper 80s and lower 90s. Flash flood watches in effect for the mountains of Southern California, portions of southern and western Arizona, the same for New Mexico and this part of Texas, where they've had anywhere from 3 to 6 inches of rain. and that's just a lot of rainfall for that usually dry part of the country. Back to Alabama. Low pressure has developed down in southern Louisiana. Stationary front running through the southeast. It's going to become cold again later tonight, run back down through Alabama again, and that's what's going to make tomorrow so cloudy and rainy, I'm afraid. We'll see scattered thunder showers and some thunderstorms and possibly as much as 1 inch of rain and some heavy thunder showers. Chattanooga, 5 1/3 inches of rain in 4 hours this afternoon with flooding in the city streets there. Our high today, clouds didn't let it get above 80 degrees after an overnight low of 71. We recorded 1/3 inch of rain, but Muscle Shoals got 2 inches for the most in Alabama.
Depend on Mom's Kool-Aid brand pre-sweetened soft drink mix.
Sorry, you don't have to talk, just stand here. Well, you're looking at some of the folks we're dragging out here, literally, to be on the outdoor weather set at the Space and Rocket Center. And you can see they're all dressed up in their finery. We've got people out here in formals and cocktail dresses, everybody having a good time, and that's why they were so worried about the rain. They didn't want to get those things wet at all. We're glad y'all came down to see us tonight. Here's the radar now in the 250-kilometer range. You can see that area precipitation dissipated very rapidly. Still have a line of showers from Iron City, Tennessee, running down through the Florence and Quad Cities area to Tupelo, Mississippi, then down around Scottsboro, Fort Payne to Coleman through Guntersville. But that area of rainfall that was threatening us has dissipated, and we don't expect to see any problems out of it. Y'all, we are going to get wet tomorrow. Let's zoom in now to the Tennessee Valley, and let's take a look at the current temperature outside. It is 73 degrees Fahrenheit and 22 Celsius. And take the overlay down, next one to the right, George, and the humidity is 93%, south-southeasterly wind at 5 miles per hour. Barometric pressure 30.07 inches of mercury, and steady. API today was 33 micrograms per cubic meter sampled. Around the Tennessee Valley, showers in the Quad Cities, 74. Same near Athens, 73. Fayetteville looks dry, 72. Scottsboro has some rain around with 73. Same in Fort Payne, 71. Guntersville, 73. Moulton has 74, and y'all have got rain on the way in about a half hour. Coleman, showers, 73, and Gaston is dry right now with 72 degrees. The forecast for tonight, cloudy, humid, and mild, and boy, is it humid down here, with 40% chance of thunder showers remaining throughout the night, low near 70 degrees, wind southeasterly 6 miles per hour. Then for Saturday and Sunday, it's going to be mostly cloudy, warm, and still humid with a 50% chance of thunder showers on Saturday, decreasing to 40% for Saturday night and Sunday. Just a chance of afternoon, evening scattered thunder showers. High 85, low 71, high on Sunday, 88 degrees, wind southeasterly 5 to 10. Extended forecast, Monday through Wednesday. Looks pretty good, y'all. Better than the weekend. Partly cloudy, warm, and still humid with summertime afternoon showers. Highs near 90, lows at night near 70. Ag weather forecast, here's why we need the rain so bad. We're down to plus 1.81 of an inch ahead on rainfall from deviation from normal. Drying conditions will be poor throughout the weekend, but heat stress will be little, if any, at all. And if we had any hay crop on the ground, it got wet and will take a few days to cure next week, I'm afraid. And everybody have a good weekend, and Jack, back to you.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. I hope you have a good weekend, too. And I tell you, this being outside is nice as long as it doesn't rain.
I've got my umbrella right over here.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. Well, those shakeups continued in the Carter administration today in Washington. We have 2 reports.
On the day the White House announced it had accepted his resignation, Schlesinger was on Capitol Hill explaining how the president expects to pay for his new energy program.
Bob Jamison, NBC News, Washington.
And here in Huntsville today, members of the Alabama State Bar Association were talking about those shakeups in Washington. News 48's Karen Friedman was at the Von Braun Civic Center today for the association's convention. Due to technical difficulties, this following report comes to you in black and white. Learned that the International Chemical Workers Union and Huntsville Manufacturing have agreed to resume negotiations. Those talks have been rescheduled to resume again August 1st. The union has been on strike for more than 6 weeks, trying to get a new contract for workers at the plant. Well, our sports director, Tony Troiano, is here at Tranquility Base with us tonight. He'll be telling us what is happening in the world of sports. That's coming up next as News 48 Update continues live from the Alabama Space and Rocket Center.
Call United Rental.
Back at Tranquility Base with Live Camera 48, 2 of our live cameras here tonight. Tony Troiano is here too, our sports director, to tell us what's been going on in the world of sports. What is happening?
Bad news for Yankee fans.
Uh-oh, bring out the crying towel again. Tony, tell us about it.
Okay, it's going to be a long night. Turning to the Major League scoreboard, first in the American League, I'm crying again tonight. Yankees lost first game in their quest to come back this year. A's over the Yankees, the score 5-1. Tommy John is the loser. He's 14-4 on the year now. Look at this. This is terrible. Baltimore beat the Angels tonight 2-1. Seattle over the Red Sox. That's good, 8-0. Milwaukee beat Toronto 2-0. After 3.5, Detroit leads Minnesota 5-0. After 2.5, Kansas City over the Indians 5-0. Chicago defeated the Rangers 2-1. In the National League this afternoon, Atlanta lost to the Cubbies 10-2. Pittsburgh 9, Houston 3. Cincinnati over the St. Louis Cardinals 3-0. After 2 innings of play, the Mets and Padres are scoreless. Montreal, LA, Philadelphia, San Francisco just starting on the coast. In other baseball news, the Detroit Tigers shipped outfielder Rusty Staub to the Montreal Expos today for a player in cash. Staub began his career with the Expos, went to the Mets, and then to the Tigers. Hale Irwin is the third-round leader of the British Open golf tourney. Irwin shot a 4 over par 75 today, but managed to stay 2 strokes ahead of Severiano Ballesteros. The leader's 54-hole total is 211. That's 2 under par. 3 shots back is the Golden Bear, Jack Nicklaus, and Mark James. Well, courage comes in all sizes. Here's a story of a young man who's attempting to overcome a handicap to be a pro golfer.
A year ago, Jeff Curran lost 2 fingers on his right hand due to a construction accident, and it was feared that his golf career would be over. After numerous operations and extensive rehabilitation, Jeff is back on the golf course once again and going strong. He's going so strong that he won the Tucson Amateur City Men's Tournament for the 3rd year in a row recently. Curran, a 0 handicapper, ran away from the field and won by 6 strokes. His next move is to graduate from the PGA qualifying school this fall. If he makes it, his lifelong dream of being a pro golfer would come true at age 22. What does he think his chances are of making it?
I think they're pretty good. If I keep improving, get a little more experience, I'll be playing a lot of tournaments this summer.
One thing that I find phenomenal about you is that you lost a couple of fingers on your right hand last year in a construction accident, and I'm told that you're doing the same type of work on the side this year. The accident you had last year obviously doesn't scare you off this year, does it?
No, it's just an accident. It happened. It should have never happened.
Curran's determination earned him the support of pro golfers Arnold Palmer and Lee Trevino. They wished him the best in his comeback effort after his accident. The best for Jeff would be playing alongside of Palmer and Trevino, and right now that's just a short putt away. This is Ron Brooks reporting for NBC News in Tucson, Arizona.
Oakland Raider quarterback Kenny Stabler arrived at the team's training camp today. Stabler was a week late. The Snakes unhappy with Raider management. He wants to be traded. Former Alabama player received much criticism for the Raiders' poor showing last year. It was the first time in 7 seasons Oakland hasn't reached the playoffs. Willis Reed appears to have the inside track on the job as head coach of the NBA's Cleveland Cavaliers. Reed has conferred with team president Nick Maletti. Maletti says Reed may be the man for the job. And Davis Hills Middle School will have a Booster Club organizational meeting this Monday night. It's at 7 o'clock in the school library. And, Champ, that is a look at sports.
That's it, huh?
That's it.
What's happened to your Yankees?
No, it's only the first game now. Only the first game.
Last night he was singing and jumping up and down, hollering and screaming, saying the Yankees are going to come back, and what they do lose tonight.
Oh, they will. Guidry's pitching tomorrow, so Guidry starts his comeback for 20 games.
Ron, give him up Guidry, right?
They'll do it.
Thank you, Tony. We'll be back with more News 48 update from Tranquility Base live at the Space and Rocket Center in just a moment.
When you see news happening, call News 48 with your news tip. In Huntsville, call 533-NEWS or toll free in North Alabama, 1-800-572-2003.
Many people think of Peter, Scottsboro, and Athens.
Well, as we've said repeatedly tonight, it's been an exciting evening here at the Space and Rocket Center in Huntsville. America's space program has come a long way, and our news director, Paul McKay, is now going to take a retrospective look at what's happened in the space program during the past 10 years. Paul?
Jack, as an avid follower of the space program ever since its inception back in the late 50s, I've seen a lot of excitement. I've seen the space program give America a feeling of accomplishment, something that we had never really ever been able to do before. Reach out, put man on the moon. And the space program has meant a lot to the everyday man. We've seen a lot of developments, a lot of technology come out of the space program. Much of the equipment that's used by today's paramedics for life-saving is a result of the space program. Microwave ovens that cook our food faster, a result of the space program. Electronic ignition for our automobiles. Those are just some of the things that have affected everyone's lives. And here in the television industry, we've seen a lot of change as a result of the space program as well. Much of the small circuitry that's used to make our mini-cams, our live cameras possible, was perfected in the space program. And yes, without the space program, we wouldn't have but one live camera, because the technology that was perfected to bring television back from the moon, 245,000 miles away, is also the same technology that allows us to bring you the news from just about anywhere in North Alabama, with 2 live cameras, and soon we're adding our 3rd. Yes, the space program has meant a lot to America and a lot to this community. We're glad to be a part of it, and we're glad this community was a part of it. Back to you, Jack.
As we have all said, it's been a really exciting evening here at the Space and Rocket Center tonight. And what would it be to be outside without leaving you one of our humorous little goodies for the weekend? And this one comes from the Big Apple, New York City. What do you give to a woman that has everything? Well, a Texas oil man, Baron Enrico de Portanova, decided to give his wife, or his lady, something a little interesting. He bought her part of the 21 Club in New York. Just a little something for his wife. The whole tab, a crisp $10 million. Nice little gift there, and the Baron's wife should feel right at home, because as we all know, the 55-year-old 21 Club is a favorite spot for the politicians, the wealthy, and all the famous, just like us. That's it for the late edition of News 48 Update. For Tony Troiano, Glenn Bracken, Dave Game, and Paul McKay, and our entire crew has worked so hard tonight. I'm Jack Robertson. Thanks for watching. Tonight is Next.